When COVID hit, many service businesses scrambled just to keep going. But for Taka and his team, the roadblock came after. The business had become fractured, water cooler chats disappeared, emails took over. Everyone was always on, but connection was way down. So they did something about it. In this episode, we talk about how they rebuilt team rhythm and connection with intentional habits, like mindfulness Mondays and even virtual Friday drinks. It's a great reminder that culture doesn't just happen, it needs design, especially when the old ways of working break down. Welcome to Busting Roadblocks, the podcast where we break down the biggest roadblocks in business and help you clear a path to success. I'm Janet Charteris, your host and the founder of JC Consultancy, where we help businesses remove barriers and unlock their full potential. Today, we're going to hear from Taka Mapfumo, sales professional extraordinaire. That probably underplays it. Your work experience covers finance, commercial, consulting, and even fleet management, with your focus squarely on Australia. And I met you, Taka, at Melbourne Business School. And I think we bonded over rugby, which is about right. But probably the respect came when we had our different approaches to group assignments, right? We were doing our MBA and working full time. And you had the pressure of 4 kids. Honestly, if you want to meet driven people, see part-time and executive MBA students. Welcome, Taka.
Thank you, Janet. Very exciting to be here. I've been watching what you've been doing, so I was very honoured, somewhat a little bit nervous about being here, so I'm hoping I can be a good contribution today.
It's so much fun having these podcasts, particularly touching base with people who I've known through my career and obviously studying. Now, today, we're talking about a roadblock that I think everyone can relate to. I feel like we're 5 years on, but for most of us, hopefully we can look back at this time when we were faced with COVID-19 and all of the issues and see that it's changed us, changed the way we do business, and hopefully refocus some of us on more important things in our life. I think probably really important to note is that Melbourne had the most lockdowns in any city in the world. So you faced something most of us didn't. But we are after a specific team dynamic example that we're going to discuss today. Can you set the scene for us? Where are we? Who are we dealing with?
Yep. So we are in an organization that relies on multiple departments in order to deliver on an end-to-end solution for a customer. So in this case, we're a fleet organization. And what we're doing is we're communicating between the two of us, and I'm leading a team of people that are customer facing. We are the conduit between the customer and their needs, and obviously delivering and meeting their expectations, and then working internally with a group of team members that are working furiously behind the scenes to deliver on the delivery that we promised to.
Yeah.
So over time during COVID, it's done one of two things, right? It's due to people working from home. For myself, I can speak to that. It's really allowed us to become a lot more productive because in a lot of cases, you don't have to commute. You can get a lot more done during the day. And in some cases, because you're able to sort of be flexible during the day with what you're doing at home, you know, that workday can really sometimes extend beyond the normal technical 9 to 5 as we know it, right? Both in a good way and in a negative way.
Yeah.
But what happened is that a lot of people have relied to emails have been your primary way of communicating.
Right.
So even when we're back in the office now, and in our situation, we're in the office 3 days a week, which is really exciting. It's really good. I really enjoy doing that. We're still having Teams meetings for people that are sitting right next to each other, right? We're still emailing people, even though they might be 2-3 rows down from where you might be sitting. And that's just a force of habit by what we've done.
This is a new behavior. So pre-COVID, you guys would have talked to each other. COVID happened, you went online with everything. And now it's still a hangover from it.
Correct. So even though we're now back in the office, a lot of our team members really communicate. We have a good time together. We still have this habit of just communicating by email.
Oh, wow.
And in some cases, what happens is when you then have a customer situation where you have a sense of urgency. So I have a customer that has a fuel card that has not been delivered to a driver. That can really impact on their day-to-day operations, right? And what I'm delivering as a service is I can help you manage your fleet.
Yeah.
So I have now a sense of urgency. And the first thing in a lot of situations that we do, I've experienced, I do it to myself, I'm not pretending to be innocent here of some of these behaviors, is you punch off, yes, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I understand the issue. Let me get on top of that for you. And the first thing you do is you punch off an email. Right? And then you get back to the list of other emails that you're either responding to or in the process of writing yourself. For us, we use Teams. Just checking if someone is available on Teams. And in some cases, having a very quick conversation to understand, number one, before you impact their workload with, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z for me, is just asking the question, how's your day going? What are you working on at the moment? And getting that context before you then impact them with whatever your sense of urgency is. So I think COVID has really impacted how we work together. There's positives out of it, but there's certainly different ways that we can improve upon the behaviors.
So amongst other roadblocks, because obviously, I mean, we've talked about the fact that you had 4 kids. So you were changing your workday a bit because you had to balance with your wife as to who's going to be homeschooling at what time, etc., and just keeping them occupied. Because they really were like, it was, I think it's a whole calendar year that you guys were locked down from a school point of view across those couple of years, right? So lots of pressure. So we've got that dynamic, and then you've got your team culture became quite fractured and maybe disengaged a little bit. So you said, was there any conflict that arose from this? Did it create tension to the point of, busting at all?
So I think probably not so much during COVID. For me, personally speaking, COVID, whilst it did impact us more, number one, I think the next time the teachers go on strike, give them whatever they ask for, because I think we all got a real good taste of what they actually bring to the table in terms of the value they add to our lives in general, dealing with these regrets. For me personally, it was good to get to know my kids and really, as an early child, really understand the dynamics of what's going on, what they're learning, how they learn, and so forth. So I really took a lot out of that personally. And I think as a unit, we became closer. Certainly, from a work perspective, the challenge that then arose, especially more so in that example that I was mentioning before, post-COVID, and the behaviors that then brings into it, is this challenge of when we interact, there can sometimes be a tendency to then quickly associate blame to a situation based on not understanding someone else's context, right? So in the previous world, you're working with people all the time. You might be sitting next to someone, you're sitting next to a team, you can see what's happening there. So you have that context and you've got the relationship and the trust to be able to understand, maybe now's not a good time to put that email in Janet's inbox because I can see what's happening and I can manage that situation with my customer just by reading between that. When you don't have that and you're relying on emails all the time, you send that email off and then you sit there waiting for the response.
Right.
Wow, Janet hasn't responded in now 6 hours. Does she not understand what I'm going through with this customer? There is no, this team doesn't appreciate what the customer's doing. This team is not customer centric. When in actual fact, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And like I said before, being able to, in those challenging situations where there is the blame, where there is the anxiety, where there is sort of mistrust between the teams as a result of this, potentially, it's just taking a step back and actually just trying to build that trust through interpersonal. And like I said, it doesn't have to be in person, face to face. Like I think right now we are technically face to face. I can see your face, right? Even though you're in New Zealand, I'm in Melbourne. Taking the time, like I said, just when you see people on Teams and it's green, just stopping before you go straight into solution mode and I need to solve this, building that trust. And sometimes it can just be, like I said, hey, Janet, how's your day going? What's happening? Hey, do you reckon you can help me out with something when you've got some time today or whatever it might be, is how I've seen a lot of the challenges that I've faced in the team where there has been now the fraction between the teams, either through your NPSs coming through or just feedback coming through between the team leaders saying, hey, my team is really feeling pressure, feeling like you guys don't appreciate what we're going through, that we're here to work for you rather than working together in delivering a solution, is where the learnings have then come back to say, hey, this is where I think we need to take a step back and maybe change some of the behaviors that have been introduced as a result of, say, COVID, to then take advantage of the technology while still trying to build that trust to then break down and get through some of the challenges that can be grouped together. For me, and a lot of times, that's been some of the reasons that some of these challenges have come about.
Lack of the normal face-to-face and that incidental communication. And I can imagine it because I know that I've sat down and, particularly depends on what mood you're in when you read the email and you're like, this person thinks they are? And it's because, so much of emotion is lost.
Or if you've never met the person in
Right.
person.
So you're in that world. Obviously, it sounds like you guys kind of handled it all right. I mean, you have to, right? You had to do it for so long. You've come back out of it. What, outside of just going, hey, how are you? Was there like a full recognition across the team that this was happening, or was it kind of more you going, I'm getting a bit of weird resistance from someone who I've worked with for 3 years, and it's never been like this. So obviously I need to rebuild something here. And how do I do it? Because it sounds like it's quite clearly, like you can see and feel that the culture has shifted. And post the COVID and even being back in the office 3 days a week, it's still shifted. But how have you recovered some of that team feel?
Definitely, I've got a team in Western Australia, and
Wow.
something that I really love that they've introduced, because I'm in Melbourne and I travel to WA every so often, is every other Thursday there is a water cooler Teams meeting which
Good.
goes for 30 minutes, and the pure purpose of that is
Yeah.
just to have a good old chinwag about what's going on. And it is truly a safe space where people can feel that they can talk about what's happening in the organization with X, Y, and Z announcement, right? Or even just, hey, how's your kid's sporting event going on the weekend?
Right.
Because, mate, you've got no voice today.
Yeah.
And, that's usually my case because I've been yelling on the sideline and encouraging the teams. But certainly having structured time just to have a chin wag, because in this day and age, you get sucked into, I know by 3 p.m. on a Monday,
Yeah.
it sometimes feels like it's a Wednesday because everything is happening so fast. And like I said before,
Yeah.
we're in this environment where it's all fast paced, it's all happening. Sometimes just taking the time, and I'm lucky to be in an organization where we are encouraged to take the time to stop and take back. On a Monday morning from 8:30 until 10:30, everyone's calendar from the CEO to everybody is blocked out, and it's just mindfulness Mondays. That's when you can spend some time with someone to have a chin wag. That's when you can have a quiet time to prepare, and no one's expecting you to respond straight away to an email, because that's your time to prepare for the week, engage with someone, build those relationships. And I think that's really one of the important ways that our organization has really introduced ways of working designed to not just go to assuming and creating simple stories that someone doesn't care, is not caring about whatever, but rather, okay, hey, let's build some time, let's build some trust, let's build a relationship, and let's work out how we can figure out, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z whilst everything else is still going on, which I think is
everything's still going to burn, right? Like you're still going to have these. So that's awesome. So your organization, like that water cooler half an hour, is that across the board?
It's not across the board. This is just the WA team, but they know that they have the trust of the business to say, no one's going to say, hey, well, why are these guys not available from 3 until 3:30? What's going on? It's consistent. They must be talking business stuff, right? No, they're catching up on the scores. They're preparing for what's happening on the weekend. They're preparing for the Friday night drinks that they still organize as a team, because they will still get together in person, because we don't have an office in WA. So for these individuals, some of them have been working together for a long time. We've got people who just joined the team, but there was such a strong culture in that team because they make the time consistently over time, knowing that the business is going to be supportive, that, you can even have a leader just drop in on that call and is comfortable in contributing to the banter and whatever it is. So I think,
the break room, and you'd be having your coffee and you're yarning and you're talking about how your team did in the weekend or what your kids are up to, or even like, I'm sure there was, particularly during COVID, there was lots of times for you guys to go, why has the government locked me down yet again? Like this is, and that's usually stuff you can talk about over lunch. At least your team have found a way through it by just recognizing that having human contact is really important. So you identified a roadblock, which, on the surface is we're locked down. Damn what they've done to us. It's fracturing all of our communications in our culture. But as we come out the other side, what can we do as a team to come better? And really making half an hour, it seems like a nothing, but it's so important, because you will be having those conversations, and you do need to vent about business occasionally and go, this person's really annoying me.
Well, the way you get the business done is by building trust as a team, so that when it's time to take care of business And if someone is under pressure and they say, Janet, I really need your help, so we can, people have the trust to roll up their sleeves and say, Janet's in trouble, team. Let's get to work to figure this out for her. And as a team, we will succeed, rather than, oh, Janet, I'm really busy. Why are you nagging me? Because I'm, or just not even looking at the email until you get a chance to. It might just be this, hey, can I connect? Rather than just sending an email and waiting back, you send an email, or you have the conversation and say, hey, Janet, I'm about to send you an email. When you've got some time today, can you ping me back so we can have a chat? The reason I'm reaching out is because it's really urgent. Or during that water cooler session, you might just quietly, whilst everyone else is joining, hey, Janet, when you've got 5 minutes today or whenever, you might have seen that email. Can we just chat on that whenever it is? And building that human trust and connection to then get through and work through the challenges that in our industry, it's every single day. There's so many different moving parts, which is why it's exciting. Automotive industry is an exciting part, especially in the fleet world. But then, taking a step back sometimes to build that human connection so that you can get through those challenges that we bust.
And is that what you've noticed? So you guys as a team have implemented this, and have you noticed that those incidental conversations have helped you do business?
Absolutely. Passive aggressiveness that, sometimes appear in there in the most professional way. The professional words, but that you can just see and you can feel the passive aggressiveness coming through. And a lot of times it's because someone is feeling a lot of pressure. They're feeling misunderstood. They're not feeling like they're being appreciated or heard. And that's on both sides, right? It's not just one side. And we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it myself. And sometimes you need a reminder, and getting some of that feedback sometimes to say, hey, sometimes your team or you, Taka, when you send that email, we're not all just going to drop our work and serve you, the king, because you are not the king. And sometimes someone can only say that to you when they've got the personal relationship that you built over time, to then say, Tux, mate, take it a notch down. Exactly. Help me by managing the customer's expectations whilst we figure this out. Or, you've got that relationship where I can say, hey, guys, I need you guys to drop the tools. We need to jump on X, Y, and Z for this. And knowing, okay, we've got the trust there to do that.
Well, I honestly think that's a really great real life example, because it didn't get dictated from the top. You guys as a team decided this is what you're going to do. It's not easy solving cultural issues. It really isn't, because often they're so embedded, it's really difficult to turn it around. But the fact that your team went, this is what we're going to do, we're going to try, and we're going to get that human touch back into it. And as you've said, it's really helped you guys do business. And I guess it helps you in the Melbourne office telling the other guys, hey, he's on it. It's all right, you don't have to worry about it. Or reverse back out and say, could you just lay off him? He's got all this other stuff going on.
I'm really lucky to be in an organization that I use and takes on board people's ideas. You can see that there are people willing to try new ideas, because, we always try new things. So the WA team have that water cooler Thursdays, and they do that. They created that themselves as a business wide on a Monday, between the 8:30 and the 10:30. It's in everyone's calendars to say this is a time for people to either work on themselves, work together, or we have people that have mindfulness lessons where you can dial in and have a bit of mindfulness as you prepare for the week. So it's, working on all these different things to really build the culture and the relationship in a safe space. We can get this done. Take some time out, whether it's been on the Friday from 3 until 5, where it's like there's no meetings allowed. And, if you need to connect via Teams, you can still do that. But Taka's not going to put a 4:45 meeting in Janet's calendar.
Because pre-COVID, everyone did that.
Unless it's hey, let's catch up for a Zoom drinks to prepare for the weekend. The All Blacks playing the Wallabies and have a bit of banter, because we kind of know how it's going to go. But if we're talking for the Premier League, then we know how that's going to go. Liverpool all the way.
Well, cool. That was awesome. So thank you so much for that. Now, what are you doing in your world now? If people who are listening want to go, I would like to connect with Taka, what's he up to? What's his focus? Tell us how our target audience can get in touch with you.
2 focuses: getting behind the team on the weekend, whether that's my 8-year-old, my 9-year-old's soccer team, my 12-year-old's soccer team, my 11-year-olds netball team. I've been told I need to quieten down during those games. Certainly, it's really getting passionate and being excited about what's happening in the world and how that impacts on fleets in particular, because you have a whole range of different things that are happening, both from a global, you've got intergovernmental, you've got geopolitical challenges that are occurring that impacts on the production of assets that are being required for businesses.
Yeah.
You've got climate change that's really impacting on what type of assets that we're using to do business day to day. We've got new technology that's coming to market that's changing how we think about how do we get from A to B compared to what we did previously, even so much as just before COVID, So I'm really excited about this industry, how it impacts the automotive space, how it impacts fleets, and how that ultimately impacts on organizations doing their business whilst they try and navigate this sort of exciting time. You can find me on LinkedIn, hit me up, let's have a chat, whether it's just to have a chat about what's happening in the world or have a chat about what's happening in your business relating to fleet. We're very lucky in our business. I'm going to give a shout out here to Custom Fleet. We've got a strategic advisory team that, not only is understanding what types of vehicles are best for your fleet, but really understanding and giving you insights to best manage your fleet. So, if you'd love to connect, hit me up on LinkedIn and I'd love to chat to you.
Cool. And we will add all that details to the podcast description of the episode so people will find you. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience. I think a lot of people will relate to it because COVID affected everyone. And although we're 5 years past it, I think we're all still going, oh, yeah, it did change the way I did business. Now, if you found this podcast valuable, make sure you subscribe and share it with your network. And if you have a business challenge you'd like me to cover, reach out on LinkedIn or at jcconsultancy.co. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What roadblocks are you facing right now?